There we go. Good morning. All right. So we are continuing on the topic of just listed and just sold. As I mentioned yesterday, it's one of my favorite sources because, again, there's quantity, there's quality. And as from a quality standpoint, that's always going to be your database. That's going to be expired. That's going to be for sale by owners. From a quantity standpoint, what I do like about the just listed and just sold script is it gives us the opportunity to be able to go after the masses, whether you're door knocking, actually even, which I'll talk about as we continue to move forward. And that is going to be, how to better benefit with your open houses by using this script. So we are going to go into the depthness of this for those of you that are joining us over on Instagram, over on Facebook, over on TikTok, YouTube, all of the other platforms. I want to welcome you guys, especially for those of you guys that are here for the very first time. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here on time. I am going to encourage you to come join us over here on Zoom as it gives us the opportunity to better interact. And how is that going to better interact? Well, we get the opportunity to role play. You get the opportunity to ask questions live. So, all right, well, let's go ahead and get started. Let's move forward. My co-host here will be joining me here shortly. So Lizette will be joining us here in just a second. All right, so let's continue with where we left off. Yesterday, I was talking about creating a pre-prospecting routine. Why is creating a pre-prospecting routine important? Because it creates a habit, okay? And we are creatures of habits. From a humanistic standpoint, we all have some version of habits. The question is, are they good or are they not good habits? Now, preferably, we're going to continue to just move in the direction to build those good habits. Unfortunately, majority of people are in mediocrity or, for that matter, in not success. And why do I share this? Because it's easy to be lazy. It's easy to sleep in. It's easy to be in a position where showing up late is normal. Whatever it is, it's basically something that we're constantly fighting. It's easier to fall into bad habits than it is easier to fall into good habits. So some of those good habits that we want to make sure that we continue to build off of is going to be that, of course, of building the pre-prospecting routine. So let me go ahead and repeat a little bit about what I talked about yesterday. One of them is waking up at the same time every single day. That's something that we want to make sure that we are doing on a daily basis. How about doing some version of exercising, anything from, stretching, yoga, or full blown going to the gym and having a workout, getting that blood flowing. It is important because it's rather than just simply crawling out of bed and then just being in a position where you're just simply showing up. Now, there is, unfortunately, at times, where I'm speaking to the audience. And again, it's fine if you take offense to this, but some of the guys are literally still laying in bed. I mean, this business is going to reward you based on the approach that you take. So are you taking the CEO approach or are you taking the employee mentality and I'll show up when I need to? So just something to think about. Now, how about eating something from a healthy perspective, having a good meal that's going to fuel your body and continue to just help you move in that direction. What about working on your mindset? Okay, what are you doing to work on your mindset? What did you do this morning? Did you do anything, or was it the another day? Is it Friday yet? Or are you putting yourself in a position where you're reading, you're doing affirmations, you're meditating, anything that's going to allow you to build that strong mindset? How about arriving at your workspace and at the same time, creating with whatever it is that's going to allow you to be in a position where you are ready to perform. Look at your desk. What does your desk look like? Is it clean? Is it organized? Does it inspire you? Is it something that doesn't inspire you? You're just looking at, oh my gosh, I got these bills to pay. I have this mess. I got this clutter. I have to, go through the organization of all of this stuff. Okay. How about clearing everything else, all the clutter that you have separate from your desk? What else, where else is it showing up? Having the opportunity to role play, which is part of the purpose of what we're doing here. Okay. So being able to role play. Okay. Now, what about keeping the process light and enjoyable? This is tough. This is challenging. As I shared with all of you guys yesterday, from a prospecting perspective, I've never liked prospecting. Okay. And some of you guys are like, what? What are you talking about? Yeah, actually, I've never liked prospecting. It's just unfortunately that some of you buy into that. Now, I understand and I respect the purpose of prospecting. It's no different than the gym. I'm not this gym buff of a person, but I understand the importance of going to the gym, getting on the treadmill, doing some version of a workout that's going to give us the opportunity to better our health. And that puts us in that position where we're continuously working on a positive direction. So when you're prospecting, just keep it light, have fun with it. Anything that's going to allow you the opportunity to just continue to, move this thing forward. All right. Any questions, any comments, any concerns? No?
So,
Okay.
Robert, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Between Just Lit and Just Sold or Target, like downside, which one you prefer?
Are you referring to like when you're calling just listed?
No, I'm referring at between the two sources. What the downsides? I have a database to call downside from two-story to one-story versus Just Lit and Just Sold. Which one would you refer to focus on more? I'm talking
The
about distribution.
Yeah, the answer is yes. So, and what I mean by that is that it's all subject to, there's benefits to the downsize community, there's benefits to the upsize community. As an example, one of the things that when Lizette and I are, I'm still in the trenches like with everybody else. So I talked about, doing open houses and the benefits of that. When you are doing an open house, for example, for us, I always like to put ourselves in a position where it is a move up because that gives us the opportunity to get somebody who's going to sell their home and ideally buy this next home. So I think it's more strategy, and because ultimately, the downsize, sure, that's an option. But I think it's going to be all subject to with what you're trying to go after. Another example is, properties here for like $1 million, they're not moving quite as fast. Okay, so they don't move as fast. Now it's awesome, it's great. Okay, take a 1.5, $2 million listing, but where you're at, $1.5 million is like that's an average price point. So it's all going to be subject to with what you're wanting to go after and continue to build.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, anybody else have any questions? I don't know if Lizette's having a hard time getting on, but we'll get her in here in just a minute. All right, so let's talk about mastering your skills. Okay, from mastering your skills standpoint. Now, when it comes down to the
Robert, I
mastering
have
of
a
your
question.
skills,
I'm sorry. I
go ahead.
couldn't get unmuted.
It's okay.
So on a singular note, doing with open houses, to circle prospect, what would you recommend for to include on your marketing pieces other than the property information on the backside? What would you recommend?
Yeah, you're gonna always want, that's a great question, Deborah. So as far as the expired for sale by owners, just listed, open houses, anything, you're always gonna want to have on the opposite side is your plan of action. Okay,
Okay.
that's going to be with what you're going to want to have. So if you're doing circle prospecting, you're doing just listed, you're doing an open house, what you're going to want on the backside of that is you want to make sure because you're going to knock on the door, and as you knock on the door, there are going to be some times that they're going to say, okay, well, we're thinking about it, but we already have somebody in mind. Okay, cool. Well, are you familiar with the techniques that I use? No, I can't really say that I do. See, here's my plan of action. And what I'd love the opportunity to do is share with you the benefits of with what I do different. I can do this now, or I can always come back later. So I would encourage you to put on the backside of with whatever source you're going after is going to be your plan of action.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right. So any other questions? No? All right, let's go ahead and move forward. We are talking about mastering our skills. And from a skills standpoint, what I want to make sure that we understand is that there's three different levels. And as far as the three different levels are concerned, number one is going to be basically just reading the script. And as we read the script, all we're doing is just trying to stay on script. That's all we're doing. Okay, and the purpose of staying on script is it gives us the ability to move the conversation forward. Because a lot of times, what I hear a lot from agents is with where they end up what do you call it? They ad lib. And when they start to ad lib, they end up just butchering the script. They start to change things. They start to go from a perspective of going from an NLP, neuro linguistic programming format, and into the more basic standard. And they're basically saying, this doesn't sound like me. And I understand that. It doesn't sound like me either when I started. But what I also need to understand is that this is the language of sales. And in the language of sales, it gives us a different perspective because the language that I spoke when I was 22, when I first started in the business, was a lot of street. And that street lingo worked so much. Okay. And I spoke Spanish, sort of, and it only works so much. But by speaking in the language of sales, it allows me the opportunity to speak to the masses. It gives me a sense of opportunity for that versatility. Okay. So in that, I want you guys to understand that in the process, as you continue to move this thing forward, what you want to do is you just simply want to read it. Because in the reading of it, it gives you the opportunity to start to memorize it, which is number two. And in the memorization, what you're going to do is you're going to go, okay, I'm starting to get this down. And as you're getting this down, it gives you, again, the opportunity to more think about what they're saying in response versus what you're having to say. Now, the third level is the mastery, and that's the internalized version. The internalized version is if I call you at 2 o'clock in the morning and I go, hey, read me the script, and you're like, okay, okay, boom, and you spit it out. That's the internalized version. Now, in the internalized version of that, I want you to think of the two different perspectives. So in Memorize, it's that kindergartner that's trying to learn that play. He's looking at his teacher, or she's looking at their teacher, and the teacher's kind of doing and they're like, oh yeah, that's right. Right? And as they're doing that, they're like, okay, I remember what's happening. But that's the kindergartner, and they're trying to memorize, in a sense, that play. Versus the mastery or the doctrine of that, that's basically in a sense of, think of Leonardo DiCaprio, who's going to get paid 75, 80 million dollars for likely his next film, and probably even $100 million because he's has the ability to play that role. Now, if you notice, even within actors or actresses, there are certain actors or actresses that are basically labeled as a certain actor. Like, in other words, there's that person that always plays the gangster, always the gangster, or there's that person that always plays the drama. That's all. That's the only thing that they are as far as that character is concerned. Or they're the comedy person, and that's it. They don't have any versatility. Okay. But with Leonardo DiCaprio as an example, he can go and play drama. He can play a comedy. He can play, rom-com. He can do all of this versatility. And by having the ability to have the internalized version of that, it gives him the opportunity to make twice, 3 times, 20 times more than his fellow actors or actresses. So what I want you to do, because there's a large percentage of you that do find yourselves where it's like, I hate scripts. I get it. I understand. And the reason you hate scripts because it doesn't sound like you. And the reason you don't go into investing the time is because, all right, fine, let me give it a shot. And you go through, and as you're pulling up the scripts, you're like, all right, Robert said to use the scripts. Hi, Bob. My name is Robert. I'm a local realtor with blank blank realty. The reason I'm calling you is I just listed a beautiful home for sale right around the corner from you over on Banana Street. It's a 4 bedroom, 2 bath, and it's listed at a great price of 500,000. Click. Damn it. And you do it again and again and again, and you get no results. And then you're wondering, well, this sucks. This script doesn't work. Let me use a different script. And then now you're on Instagram, you're on TikTok, or you hear somebody say, hey, I make $1 million off of this script. And you go, okay, well, let me try this one. And you do the exact same thing. But you don't take the time in investing in yourself. And the investing in yourself is going through and working on it time and time and time and time and time again. Okay. So I'm going to give you guys some tips. This is what's going to help you guys get to the next level. But let me open it up for any questions. Does anybody have any questions that I can address? All right. So going from simply reading it to memorizing it to internalizing it, here's a couple of tips. Now, the first thing I would do is I would record myself. Now, why am I asking of you to record yourself? Because you want to be able to listen to yourself over and over again. I want you to think of going back to when you were in high school and you're trying to be that cool kid that is trying to remember the lyrics to that song. Now, you didn't just play the song, I like the song, and all of a sudden out of nowhere, bam, you know the song. No, what you would do, especially people my age, they would go through and record it on a tape. And as you record it on the tape, I would go through and hit play, rewind, play, rewind, play, rewind. And I was trying to get so good with those lyrics that whenever the song came on and everybody's singing, I wanted to sing along because, yeah, I'm cool like them. But what we do is with the scripts is we don't take that approach. The approach that we take is basically just enough. And the just enough isn't going to get it done. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to record it and listen to yourself over and 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 over again. I would practice this 4 to 6 hours a day, every day, 365 days out of the year. Now, here's the thing. I want you to understand, because a large percentage of you will go through and say, well, I have role play partners. Cool. Awesome. Yesterday, I was working with an office and I asked how many people have role play partners. There's probably about 40 people in this office. And there's about 10 people that raised their hand. And I said, okay, with a show of fingers, how many role play partners do you have? And of the 10 people, there were. And I'm like, that's cute. That's awesome. Good for you because you're doing it more than the other 30 people that weren't doing it. The problem, though, is that in that 1 or 2 or very nice, 3 role plays, you're practicing 3 times. Where when I'm recording it, I'm listening to myself over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. I don't know. Maybe that's going to get you a little bit of a different result. So my point is I want you to invest time. All right. You're telling me, Robert, to make 4 to 6 hours in my day? It's impossible. No, it's not impossible. What you need to do is you need to be in a position where it gives you the opportunity to identify where you can, not where you can't. So let me give you an example. My alarm goes off 3:45. I roll out of bed in most cases 4:15. Very first thing, I don't do this quite as much now, nowhere near, because obviously I'm at a completely different level of my career. But when I would go through the studying of this, I would put on my headphones and I would go ahead and hit play. And I would go through, get my stuff ready, and I would just listen to myself over and over and over and over and over again. And I would take me 10, 15, 20 minutes, get my gym clothes ready, get my pre-workouts, get, maybe my protein shakes, so on and so forth. And then I'd drive to the gym, which would be another 5, 10 minutes. I'd listen to myself there. Then I'd be at the gym for, in most cases, about 60 minutes. And I'd listen to myself again there. So by the time I even started my day or got to my first role play, I had listened to myself probably about an hour and a half, maybe in some cases as much as 2 hours. Yeah. And then at that point in time, what I would do is I would now jump into my role play. Now, I was very well versed in what I was trying to accomplish by this time. And when I would get to my role play partners almost would always be in a position of like, wow, that was awesome. Well, that's good, but what do I need help with? What do I need to work on? Okay. So, and in that, you're going to find some more time. Okay. And then I think, Deborah, you have a question, so I'll get to you in just a second. Thank you for raising your hand. Now, then we go through and I would prospect 4 to 6 hours a day. How much time would I be in conversation? In most cases, I'd be in conversation for about 15, maybe 20 minutes out of the 60 minutes in that hour. What was I doing with the other 40, 45 minutes? Guess what? I was working on my skills. So in those 4 hours of prospecting, I would work on for about 2 to 3 more hours of just listening to myself. Now, I already identified an hour, maybe an hour and a half. Now, let's say another 2 hours. So by the time I even got to lunch, I've already worked on it 3 hours. Do you guys see what I'm getting at? And I can continue to break this down, but I don't want to bore you guys to death. Deborah, you have a question?
Yes. So are you working on one script at a time, or are you doing multiple scripts?
So I'm literally giving you guys exactly with what I used to do. And what I'm referring to in answering your question, as you notice, I change scripts once a month. And that's what I would do. So in answering your question, basically once a month, I would go through and I would just simply change the script. So next month, focusing on, I don't know, database. The month after that, for sale by owners. The month after that, expires. So that would give me the opportunity. And furthering your question, Deborah, what I would do so that I can continue to, to work on my skill set, after 12 o'clock, I would work on my objections. Okay, which is a whole different topic. Now, in those objections, most realtors only get 6 to 8 different objections. And why do you only get 6 to 8 different objections? Because when I'm working with a client, they go after this source, this source, this source, and this source. Well, the likelihood is they're only getting 1, 2, or 3 objections from here, 1, 2, or 3 objections from here, 1, 2, or 3 objections from here, and so on and so forth. So they're only getting 6 to 8. So you don't have to go through and memorize all of these scripts. When I used to be with Century 21, people didn't say things like, I'm not familiar with your company. I've never even heard of your company. So I didn't even have to work on that. But then I went to Robert Villanueva Real Estate. Yeah, that's all I got. I've never even heard of your company. I don't even know who you are. What's the name of your company? Robert, what? Well, guess what? Now I have to work on that. Okay. So let's continue to break down the script. Any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to go ahead and type them in or ask them. And if you guys are on the other platforms, thank you guys for being here. I really appreciate that. So let me go ahead and share screen here.
Robert, we don't have a question, but just from Edward on your live on Instagram, he just said great work.
Edward, thank you for being here, buddy. I appreciate you. So thanks for the shout out. It's a lot of work from the perspective of trying to get from where you're at to where you want to be at. And I know it's a lot, okay? But here's the thing. You'll notice that there are some people that are in peak physical condition. I'm not one of them, okay? And what I'm relating to is that those people put in the work, energy, and effort. And I get it. I understand. Some of you guys are sitting there, well, that's all they do is that they work out. No, that's not true. Because I do see and I do look up to these people where they're Fortune 500 CEOs and they're running these billion-dollar companies and they can still find the time to get themselves to 7, 8, 9% body fat physique. What makes that person different than the person who's 30, 40% body fat is the time, energy, and effort that they're putting into it. So what you need to do is decide what type of results do you want. Do you want to be that person that has the 6, the 8, the 10-pack abs? Or do you want to be the person that's just kind of flabby and has the extra weight? And what I mean by that, in your business, do you want to be the agent that does 100 deals or 50 deals or 500,000? Or do you want to be the agent that continues to do the same thing over and over again, 6, 7, 8 deals? Just an idea. All right, so let's go ahead and break this.
We do also have a quick question. I don't know if you want to answer it now or later, but Edward from Instagram says, how many contacts are you making practicing so much in a day?
Oh, there we go. Okay. So I'm going to share, Edward, thank you for the question. Now, I got to the point in my 6th year of business. Let me see, hold on. Yeah, basically my 6th year of the business where I worked my way up from 20 contacts a day to 30 to 40 to 50 to eventually I got to 2 years of every single day, listen up, I would have 100 conversations, 100 contacts, okay? Now, in those 100 contacts, people would ask me, well, how in the world is that even possible? Well, I would. And how would I do this? Now, I'm going to, of course, date myself on this, Edward. I'd have 3 phones. Now you guys are sitting there with an auto dialer. Okay, you got my friend Angel that owns Enzo that's dialing 14 lines at a time. But I'd have literally 3 phones. I'd have phone number 1, phone number 2, and then phone number 3. And I would put on my headset and I'd put it on, and this would be phone 1, phone 2, and then I'd have another speaker right here. I know it sounds weird, okay, but I did whatever it took to become this successful person. And each one of them represented a different line. It's probably why I'm deaf now. So anyways, I'd go through and I would dial, okay, and then I'd dial, and then I'd hear ring, and then I'd dial, and I'd hear ring, so on and so forth. And then finally this would hang up, okay, and then I'd dial again, this person would pick up. And I was just doing this little musical instrument, okay? I learned how to master this. And in the mastering of that, I would get between 12 to 14 contacts an hour. So Edward, I would prospect for 6 to 8 hours a day. Some of you aren't even putting in 6 hours a day in your real estate business, but I'd be on the phone 6 to 8 hours a day or door knocking. That's how I got to 100 contacts. Now, I haven't answered your question, and I get that. Now, in that would get me to that 100 contacts. Some days I'd have to put in 10 hours. But the in-between, I would listen to myself in the background, just enough volume to where I could hear myself in the whatever script it was. So if it was expired, going against a little bit with what Deborah was asking, in that moment, if I was calling expireds for that hour or two, all I would do is just hear myself on loop, expired, over and over and over and over again. And as I'm going through doing this thing, okay, I'm listening to myself and I'm practicing, okay, and I'm practicing. Hello, yeah, and I jump right in. Now, I know, I get it, I understand it sounds kooky, but you don't have to do that anymore because ultimately all you do is just put on your headset, you kick up your feet, you get Enzo Dialer, and you're sitting there getting 14, 16 contacts an hour. You're just kind of sitting back and not having to worry about anything other than people just answering the phone. So, and in the in between, even with Enzo using 14 to 16 contacts an hour, you're probably only conversing for about an average about 2 to 3 minutes. And in those 2 to 3 minutes, 14 contacts, you're probably conversing for about 30, maybe 40 of the 60 minutes. The other 20, 30 minutes is what I'm investing in learning my script. Then I change source. I change my whatever I'm listening to. I'd call FSBOs, now I go through my FSBO script. I call just listed, I go through my just listed script. I'd call for rent by owners, I'd go through my for rent by owners. I'd call my database, I'd go through my database. And that's all I would do. My job was to do three things at the end of the day. I built my team to the point where ultimately all I did was work on my skills. I would prospect, I would do lead follow-up. The goal was to go on appointments. That was it. Even in the negotiation, 80 to 90% of the negotiations were done by my team. Okay. Because we'd have almost everything templated. Everything else, all the other minutia was taken care of by my team. Hey, we got a listing appointment over on 123 Banana Street. Do me a favor, prepare a CMA. Go through, my assistant would prepare the CMA. They'd pull up 10, 12, 15 comps. They go, okay, which comps do you want to use? That one, that one, that one, that one, and that one. Let's go ahead and do that. 30 seconds for a CMA for me. Okay. Anyways, other questions? All right.
So I have a quick question regarding the preparing for the listing presentation. I found that I spend so much time on preparing the craft. So how can you suggest the best way to actually improve my listing presentation skill without spend hours on a CMA?
Template. Okay, you got to template everything. Everything is templatable. The only thing that's really going to vary in this end is going to be what comps you're going to use. But when you're going through and you're practicing your craft in regards to running values, what you're going to do is you're going to pull up comps and you're just going to go through bam, 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 bam. Now I run a CMA. I'm in a new market and I could run a CMA in 10 minutes. That's the only time I'm really investing because everything else, you can almost pre-print almost everything else. Okay. So
Okay,
yeah, you want to be as templatable, as efficient as you possibly can.
that's a good suggestion. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And of course, if you have a TC, you can get them to prepare the contract in advance. If you have an assistant or a VA, you can get them to prepare all the marketing materials. And the only thing you really, in a sense, have to do is run the CMA. And even then, you can teach a VA to do the CMA and go through and do exactly with what I just said. And they pull up 30, 40 comps. They go through a mile radius based on these criteria that you've already prepared in advance. And you go through and you just say, okay, that one, that one, that one, that one, and that one. So you could do the exact same thing. Okay. So in this, as far as the script is concerned, just listed, just sold. There's two different scripts. I'm going to continue to break this down. I know I only got about 60 seconds left. But the purpose of the just listed versus the just sold. I personally, between the two, I always prefer the just listed. And here's the reason why. Because my goal was to double end as many properties as I possibly could. Now, I'm not saying I wouldn't use the just sold, but I would go through, pick up the phone, and try to find the buyer for my own listing. There was probably about 2 years where I got to right around 50%. So I would take on average about 12 to 14 listings a month, and I would double end almost half of them, 5, 6, 7 of them a month. So I'd take 12 and I'd double end, 6 of them. Well, that's 18 deals. Boom, there you go. There's an 18 deal month. My job was to take a listing and to tell everyone about it. And the just listed allowed me the opportunity to do that. I'm going to share with you guys next week on how to utilize the just listed script for your open houses. And then being in a position where I would brag about it, about that I just sold the property, and I'd use that to my benefit of saying, hey, Ann, by the way, remember that property I called you on 2 weeks ago? We ended up selling it. We know when one sells, usually a few more sell right away. Just curious, when are you thinking about making that move after all? All right, everybody. Well, thank you guys for being here. I really appreciate you guys being here. Any last questions, comments, concerns, anything else of anything else? Nope. All right, everybody. I will see you guys next Tuesday. Let's have a powerful and, of course, productive day. If you guys want more information about scripts, coaching, or anything from that perspective, go to my website, therobertvillanueva.com. I'll see you guys next Tuesday. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Robert.